Thank you, Mr. Massé. And I will now yield the floor to MP Barrett for 5 minutes.
Commissioner, Mr. Keno, good to see you. I have a hypothetical question for you. If a designated public office holder like a minister had a financial interest in a company like Telesat, and Telesat, which just received a more than $2 billion loan from the government just days ago, would that minister need to have recused themselves? What would that look like for that minister with that interest in Telesat?
You're asking me, as usual, sorry, not as usual, as you have before, theoretical questions. I gladly answer a factual question. The theoretical one, you'd have to give me far more detailed facts before I can answer. You say
okay.
There was a grant to Telesat.
Sure.
By who? By cabinet decision? On what base? Under what authority? Who was the minister, etc.?
So, just this past week, Justin Trudeau announced that Mark Carney is going to be advising him on all matters finance. And days after, a company that Mr. Carney has a financial interest in received $2.14 billion in an announcement by the Prime Minister. Mr. Carney has been hired by the Liberal Party, it appears, to avoid the scrutiny of the Conflict of Interest Act. Does this present as skirting of the? It clearly presents as a problem to Canadians. Is Mr. Carney a ministerial advisor by the definition set out in the Act?
No, because he is advising the Liberal Party. What the Liberal Party does or does not is not government action. The government may adopt the advice that was given by Mr. Carney, but in effect they're adopting the advice of the Liberal Party who got it from Mr. Carney. It's the way they structured it right now. He is not a ministerial advisor. So
it's an appropriate practice then for parties to provide, we would imagine, non-public information, for the government to provide non-public information to their employees at the party when those employees have serious financial positions in companies that could stand to benefit from that information.
Well, the party gathers information from all sorts of sources, etc. They can pay for it, they can get it for free, etc. They then use that information in order to position themselves and decide on their policy. That is a perfectly normal procedure. There's nothing of conflict of interest here.
So there's no conflict if Mr. Carney receives non-public information from the Department of Finance and then uses that to provide advice to the government because he's employed by the party and not paid by taxpayers, though the advice that he provides could materially benefit him and his other.
Your supposition is that he receives non-public inside information from the Department of Finance.
Point of order, Chair.
That's just a supposition you make. I have no proof of that. If that is
excuse me, Commissioner.
The case, that would be a different situation.
We have a point of order. I'll just...
Sorry to interrupt, Commissioner, but I just find it a little bit troubling that Mr. Barrett hasn't asked a single question about SDTCs using hypotheticals to ask the witness a question, which is great, but it's not what we heard to study. My understanding, I know he supports, world-dominating billionaires, but that rather than Canadian companies, but that's not my. That's not the axe that he should be grinding today. It's SDTC.
Is there a point of order?
It's relevance.
Thank you, Mr. Turnbull. Thank you, Mr. Turnbull, and I accept your point of order in that we had a 1064 meeting to call for this 3-hour special meeting to discuss the Commissioner's report on SDTC. So I'd ask you, Mr. Barrett, although I am generous in terms of the questions that can ask, to try to be relevant to the topic for which you had a whole lot of resources deployed this summer to bring this meeting forward specifically about this topic. So please keep those rules in mind. You know the rules of relevance. And I'll yield the floor to you back. You have a minute and a half.
I agree that Mr. Turnbull is quite troubled, Chair, as he stated. when we're talking about conflicts of interest, like Ms. Verscherian, you can check the box there, Ryan. Randy Boissonneau's company, Global Health Imports, was given $30,000 on December 30th, 2023. Minister Boissonneau was a 50% partner in that company. Were you aware of that?
Sorry, when was
Point
it
of
given?
order.
Yes, Mr. Turnbull.
I thought the topic for this meeting was SDTC. Is the witness answering questions on
I'll bring
any
it back.
topic that Mr.
That
Barrett
was
so
15
chooses,
seconds.
or is this an actual focused discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Turnbull. And yes, I agree with that point of order. Mr. Barrett, keep it on the topic of the meeting, please. Thank you.
It was December 30th.
That was a company you're talking about, the contract from Election Canada?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. There was a company in which he was an owner. At that point, he is no longer an owner of that. Just being an owner in a company, he had no involvement with the operation of the company. We have looked, as you know, at his involvement.
But were you aware at the time that that had occurred?
No. It came out, I read it in the press as you, but I'm sorry, in elections, Canada was buying, I believe, masks or gloves or something like that for $30,000 through
Is it not a violation of Section 13, Sub 2 of the Act?
How is it a violation? He's not running a company. Can he not?
It says they can't have an interest in a partnership or private corporation that's party to a contract with a public sector entity.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. That's all the time you had. And